Newsfirst.lk.
And a wonderful morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios on Dawson Street in Colombo and broadcasting on TV1. Across the globe, journalists on the front line of the fight against corruption are facing persecution. Although Sri Lanka has seen a marginal improvement in its world ranking, as compiled by the Reporters Without Borders, the country is still ranked 141st out of 180 countries surveyed. As we celebrate World Press Freedom Day here in Sri Lanka, processes have been initiated to adopt two pieces of legislation, which, if enacted without proper consultation with stakeholders, in this case the media, could be seen as restrictive legislation intended to obstruct and muzzle the freedom of the press. To celebrate and mark World Press Freedom Day, we have the editor, the news editor of the Island newspaper, no less, Mr. Shamindra Ferdinando. Very good morning to you, Mr. Ferdinando.
Good morning to you, Faraz.
And how do you feel on World Press Freedom Day?
Nothing, just a day, I mean.
It's another day.
It's just another day.
But is it a day that helps one focus, isn't it? Do we have proper consultation? This new couple of pieces of legislation, the Counter-Terrorism and Media Council bills, are there matters that need to be discussed very much along with the media?
The counter-terrorism bill, I don't see any reason for the government to discuss it with the media.
Okay.
Why should the government discuss counter-terrorism bill, which they are hoping to bring in place of the PTA, which was introduced during President Jayawardena's time to counter the LTT and other terrorist groups? I don't see any reason for the government to discuss this matter with the media.
Right.
But of course, any rules and regulations brought in to restrict or control media should be discussed with media organizations and also various media organizations.
Mm-hmm. Because after all, we are the stakeholders of this, aren't we? The media.
Yes, but I must tell you, not only this government, even previous government did not discuss these issues with the media.
Yeah.
So,
but we must, what's the word? Hand the devil its due. And in this unity government, we are certainly enjoying...
Unity government, are you sure there's any...
Well, that is debatable. Shall we say that arguably this unity government, there is no fear psychosis, is there?
For us, you should compare the situation this country faced before May 2009.
Yes, the ambience.
Yes, and those who discuss about the situation now and then and compare the previous government with this government, they very conveniently leave out the situation, the factor, the LTT factor, where.
But Shamin, surely the LTT factor, as much as the threat that it was and worrying as it was, gives nobody any right to impinge on the freedom of anybody, including the lives and lifestyles of journalists.
Certainly, certainly. I mean, if any journalist...
I mean, you can't say, Shamin, that it is because of the LTT that all these journalists were attacked and muzzled by the previous government and the government before that.
No, certainly, whatever the situations, conditions, there's no right on their part to harass any journalists or kill them or target them.
Yeah.
That's true. But you must also take into consideration that the media could have cooperated with subversives and LTT also. I mean,
yeah, that's a possibility.
Because in a world, politicians can be brought over, right? Influence with bribes and various things. You should not rule out the possibility of various organizations.
But not at the whims and fancies of one or two officials.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
you know.
It's not. I mean, it's better to expose these people if they feel that they had done something wrong against the government or the country or the national interest, to expose them. I certainly not agree with, you know, killing people or, you know, targeting them. That's wrong.
Former President Chandrika Kumaratunga once told me, in passing almost, that when she was told that I was working for a particular newspaper, she said, "Oh, you need to be very careful, because it's not like when I was in office. There is a real fear psychosis now." And I was left wondering what exactly she meant, because Lasantha Wickrematunge had been attacked, his press has been sealed and burnt during her watch. Of course, she retorted and said, "And under whose watch did he lose his life?" And you know, the reverberations for his family have been absolutely unimaginable. And Lasantha Wickrematunge is greatly missed by his family,
Sure.
his friends, and of course I think by the world of journalism too.
Actually for us, I worked under him, Lasantha Wickrematunge, in
Right.
I think 87, 88, that
Really?
period. When I joined the island, he
Yeah.
was a news editor. He was my boss, so great journalist.
Yeah,
I mean, he could have contacted anybody and got a story.
yeah,
So I think at that time, I think he was private secretary to the then opposition leader Sinimau Bandar. Right?
that's right, that's
So
right.
then he contested the Colombo district on the SLAP ticket, and then subsequently switched sides, you know. So, but anyway, I think this government should investigate into his assassination.
Yes, and it's very sad, Shamindra, that shall we say it is his government, the UNP, that are a major component of this arguably unity government.
Yes.
And these are the same people who shouted the loudest at the time of his very untimely and unlawful killing. But it's sad that it doesn't seem to be given the same urgency as when they were in the opposition and when they had the odds stacked against them. And it's very sad. And we will forever and a day miss Lasantha. The way he used to summon when he wanted his pen and he was seated in his office, he had a unique way of doing it. He did a whistle, which was heard right down the end. And he was very infectious. And so we remember Lasantha on World Press Freedom Day. And you know, his contribution to, am I right in saying that they were the pioneers of reporting investigative stuff that they sort of managed to uncover?
Yes, certainly, because he was able to get some great stories. He was into politics, so naturally he got a lot of stuff from all political parties. Even after his death, during a particular court case, which was transpired that that the government, the previous government, the Rajapaksa government, had paid millions of rupees to Mr. Wickrematunge's newspaper for advertisements. So, but all the people thought that they were fighting, you know, huge battle between the government and his newspaper, but that they were receiving money. It transpired in court, I think High Court of Colombo. So, you know, it's a world for us that there are things we discuss today here, but there are other partnerships, connections.
Well, there are all sorts of things. But you know, Lasantha, of course, is held very closely and dearly. He worked with our group, had a program. In fact, I think it was called Newsline.
Yes, I remember.
And it was breakfast with Lasanta, or have Lasanta for breakfast.
That was in, I think, 2002, 2003 period.
That's right.
Yes.
And I remember the hoardings, especially in Bamilapiti. I still remember that. It was an egg cup, and Lasanta's face was in the cup.
Yes.
And it was like, have Lasanta for breakfast. Wonderful stuff. And Sunday was a day that we looked forward to, because we had to start by reading not Surah Nimala, but the little bit he had in the front. The column fails me, the name, but it was very, very enjoyable, and well, we will miss him. Yes. And we will always remember his wonderful contribution. He was there at the Parliament when we were Claymore bombed and so on, and sadly he is not here anymore. We will always miss him. And but do you know, I want to ask you this: during the last government, during the war and so on, when there was a number of journalists actually left the country, and but now this government is here, and we have very much more freedom now. That's a given. But these are still abroad. What would you say about that?
I think the Foreign Minister, Mangala Samarwila, he has repeatedly invited them to return.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody who has sought political asylum and obtained German or French or British citizenship wanted to leave Europe and return to Sri Lanka. So I don't think they'll come.
I remember speaking to somebody who's a sort of spokesperson for shall we say, the LTT leaning diaspora. And I said to him, will you ever come back? And he looked around his rather plush living room in Northwood Hills in the UK, and he said, and leave this with the fireplace. And I said, well, eventually you'll get the old fast food outlets and all that out there. And he said, no, I'm not coming back. But he was still very much there. So sometimes they make their lives out there, they don't want to come back. But Shamindra, we because we were here saying that there may be an insinuation that by accepting advertisements as paper, that Lasanta was sort of bought over. The viewer is saying that in his view, or in her view, Lasanta wasn't his journalism wasn't bought.
No, certainly not. I mean, I did not say that. I just simply pointed out a factor which came out in the court.
Yes.
That's it.
But it's like this. I mean, you take any paper these days, bar one or two, where the government doesn't advertise. In fact, I know of a journalist who has written to the Ministry of Finance asking them to disclose all their advertising broken down by the different outlets under the right to information. I think he's still waiting for an answer. I know that as of yesterday he didn't get it.
For us, I think, we must realize you don't need rules and regulations to control the media. Right? You don't need any rules. Right? Because you have other ways and means of controlling the media and the journalists and the organizations. You can deprive them of advertising, and if somebody is not happy with X, that politician can easily speak to the head of that organization,
That's
the
right.
owner, and just simply tell him to not
I
to do
agree
it.
with you. There's a new newspaper on.
And I must always tell you that media always take sides. There's no independent media. I mean, every media.
That's one of the things that that they're fighting for.
Now, I am sure you are aware, the British media, they openly support conservatives all over.
But that's all, I think that's all right. That's nice to be able to do that, because you're being transparent about it.
But we do the same.
Yes, but I think the point the viewer is trying to make is that you couldn't say to Lasanta, look, I'll give you X, of advertising or money or whatever, but don't run the story. Because I know one incident when somebody made a call, and originally the layout was only a small little photograph which you couldn't really see of some document. And after he got the call, that was blown up to all its glory, so that any reader, you didn't need to write the story, all you had to do was to read the document that he reproduced in the paper. And I think he became known for that, because his brand was you write and then you also publish the documents, and then there was no argument.
Certainly.
I want to move on to, but in the end, La Santa unfortunately lost his life in pursuit of the truth, and it's very, very sad. He has a young family who miss him desperately, and there's nothing that we can do to bring him back, but at least in memory of his legacy.
For us, it's the responsibility of this government to investigate.
But then, what about the right to information? Now it's an act. It's part of the
RTI,
law,
yes.
The RTI. But all I got when I wrote to the Elections Commissioner was I got an acknowledgement on the 14th day. I don't think that they were given 14 days just to acknowledge. How are you finding it?
No, actually, for us, I don't think we need this RTI. It was a NGO project, right? So, in the run-up to the elections in 2015 January, the previous opposition, they had various issues, projects, like they said they'll investigate Mr. Vikramatunga's killing, they will give media freedom. So like there were several projects. So this was one, the RTI project. And if you go and check the countries high on the RTI rankings, there's Mexico, El Salvador, Sierra Leone, South Sudan. So why do we have to get into that club? Right?
I don't think, this is the whole problem.
I think people like La Santa operated in the absence of RTI or any such law.
Yeah, he didn't
but
need
he was able to get any story he wanted to. Yeah. So we can do the same.
Yes, and that's the point I'm trying to make. We, this network, didn't need the RTI to keep going. We're still going. We intend going. Today, tomorrow, and beyond.
Yes.
We'll be there. We're part. We're like set in stone, and even better than that. And it's the same with you. You haven't left the country, have you?
No.
Did you ever consider going?
No.
But some of these other journalists have gone out there. They've made their lives.
No, but I must tell you I must tell you one thing very strongly, that some of these people who left the country, they wanted political asylum. Political asylum, just one issue, one minor thing with the government, some politician says a statement, they run to the...
That's right.
And this government, I was blasted, I was very strongly criticized by the Prime Minister, Mr. Vikramatunga, very publicly. He mentioned my name 6 times.
So that is, again, a form of intimidation.
No, I think the Prime Minister has a right to criticize a journalist. Right? There is no need for him to mention my name 6 times, but he has a right.
But so, I want to say this to you, I want to interject here. Your life, and that of all journalists in this country, would have been far, far more graver, serious, if we didn't fight to have the 19th Amendment amended in terms of the media activities. Because they would have controlled the media. There was just this half-baked idea to control the media.
For us, the 19th Amendment, when they brought it, the primary objective was to restrict the number of ministers and the deputy ministers. Now there are over 100, almost 100.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that...
well, not only that, what about the clipping of the presidential powers, and there was wide and far-reaching changes. But in there, they did try to slip this thing in to control the media. And why? Why do they want to do this? if they are transparent and profess transparency, then why do you need that?
I believe for us that if they really want to control media, they don't need any rules and regulations. They can do it.
Well, they're doing it partially now.
Yes, because some time back there was censorship in this country during President Jayadavadan's time, President Kumaratunga's time, that where all media had to take their copy to the information department.
That's right, the competent authority.
Then subsequently...
Do you remember how Lasanta got round that?
No.
Do you remember the article? It was one particular weekend, and because we had censorship, he said there was no Air Force forays in the north. No bombings took place. Nobody died. 6 people did not die, and so on. And that was it. Needless to say, the press was sealed for the following week, and it stayed sealed for several months.
That was during Chandrika's time?
Chandrika's time. It was during Chandrika's time. But he was inventive. And I say it again, Samindra, I certainly miss him. We, the network, miss him. And he made such an impact on us.
That's why on the onset, at the onset I said that I worked under him.
Yes.
And he taught me to get a story, I think in 87, 88 period. He was the news editor at the island. And
do you think a lot of people knew that he was Suranimala at the start?
Not initially.
Not initially.
But I think...
but he had wonderful, I don't think there's anybody who has replicated that. He had great sources. And it was almost as though Lasanta was seated in the cabinet and writing his column.
I think the former president was called by the former president Kumaratunga reporter because he was giving information. That's what President Kumaratunga said.
That's what, but then she said lots of things which she couldn't probably,
if the politicians for various reasons cooperate with the media, they leak news, so we also get stories like that. I'm sure you get it. So it's always, how people in the unity government or Yahapalana or the joint opposition, when politicians want to undercut their colleagues, they always go to the media. So
our legal department, we were interested in your answer to this. And that is, my question is, do you have a rather large mailbox at home?
No.
So you don't get people coming and dumping big documents and sort of stories, information?
Today they email their stuff for us. So.
Oh, right, okay, I get that. So we've moved on from, yes, okay.
And getting documents.
From post boxes to drop boxes.
Yes, and especially, receiving documents when people for tenders, when they fail to acquire tenders, they usually go to the media. So I think most of these people are equally corrupt, There's no difference. So media is part of it because
now what do you have to say about what do you have to say, the initial, now it's like initial...
I think for us, somebody should write to the media ministry under the RTI Act and request the media ministry to release the names of all media men who had received perks, privileges, laptops, vehicle loans.
But they did release the laptop thing, didn't they?
No, that somebody is secretly released because I think somebody within the system wanted to name these people. But the whole list, somebody should raise it in the parliament, and then they'll know. Somebody had taken something illegally. So identify the people, identify them. Then you will realize what's going on in this country.
What chances do we have of that then?
It's nothing against national security, so there is no need for anybody. Pardon?
What chances?
They will have to release. They will release.
Will they do that?
They will have to because...
They can't even pass a budget. They can't even enact a budget.
What is the connection?
What I'm saying is non-delivery. That's what I mean. Non-delivery. They pass the budget, but they don't enact it. Then they miss the timeline, and the IMF are now not giving us the next tranche. So guess what? We've got a ready-made excuse to go to the international market and raise money. $2.5 billion? I wonder where they're raising the money from. Have you thought about that?
No.
I suggest you look carefully, Mr. Ferdinando. I would focus your gaze towards this lion state, Singapore, because there are companies, financial companies there, owned by people connected with the bond saga, the bond scam, right? It's nothing but a scam, right? And I would be very surprised if there wasn't a nexus. But we are looking at it, so they better get their act together, because if they're not covering it up properly, we're going to be uncovering it. And I'm sure there are reporters in your organization who are looking at it already. But isn't that a tragedy? Can't we take them to court to say, now, we've had to raise money because you didn't pass it in Parliament, and therefore you missed the IMF timeline, so they're not giving us this next tranche of money until you pass it in Parliament.
So for us, they have 2/3 majority in Parliament,
Yeah.
Japan administration. So if they fail to do it, they did it purposely most probably, because there's market out there where they could get money. So somebody should also inquire into that, whether...
And also, did you look into that? I don't know if you... do you remember the former governor of the central bank went to Saudi Arabia, or the Middle East, came back, he said, billions of dollars will come in. Where? To where? To his account? To the consolidated fund? To external resources? Where? Where is this money? What's happened? And what about the Belgian, so-called Belgian investor? He was supposed to be bringing billions.
Yes.
What happened to him? Unless he's not a billionaire anymore because he sent the money here and then God knows what happened. So what about all these wild, unfounded claims? What is it? Is it to pull the wool over the eyes of the collective public?
I think so for us, because politicians issue statements, then there's a fresh issue. So we are also moving on, over the past few days. The issue was whether the former president could attract so many millions people to Galways, and whether...
what does that all signify, for heaven's sake?
So it's all issues for us. The media report, the politicians exploit the media also. They control things. So now they'll find another issue. They'll find another issue, to discuss over the next couple of days or weeks.
Look, it's an absolute tragedy that Chandrika Kumaratunga was president for about 10 years. Mind her, and I'm still struggling to find out what on earth she did in her 10 years. MR, okay, he won the war, but he had 9 years to sort out the garbage problem. Didn't do that. That is a tragedy, whichever way you look at it. They spent billions of dollars on development. How come this slipped the net? And they only waited till 2014 to do a proposal, which, of course, this lot have completely and utterly ignored. And just because these people are, some of these are squatters and so on and so forth, doesn't mean that they deserve to be buried under a heap of garbage.
Sir, you're right.
Did you? I don't know if you went there, but I went there ahead of a program, and I looked at the waterways around it. They were all clogged, blocked. We don't need Japanese experts to tell us why on earth this blessed thing collapsed. All the waterways are all blocked, and there was nowhere for the water to go to. It's wet garbage.
For us, on Sirisa TV, on Pathikada with our good friend Bandula Jayasek.
Oh, him, yeah.
The Chief Minister of the Western Province, Isura Devapriya, I think last week, he alleged that he proposed certain measures to solve these problems, but the economic committee, the ministerial committee, which includes the President and the Prime Minister of this country, ignored his proposal and handed it over to the megapolis. And in the process, the economic committee, according to the Chief Minister, should take responsibility. Right? Now, the Supreme Court, way back in 2009, I think, recommended, actually ruled, that they can use Mitota Mulla for only 2 years and only 2 acres.
That's right.
So the previous government ignored that Supreme Court order.
Yeah.
This government did the same. People were buried and rubble. So I think I think the Supreme Court on its own can initiate some action.
Indeed.
On its own.
Well, it's been an eventful morning. Thank you very much for being on Newsline and for being here to mark World Press Freedom Day. May all members of the press be blessed to be able to carry on with their work unimpeded, without let or hindrance, and to report it the way it really is. And on that day, as we also remember and miss Lasanta Wickramatunge, that's it from Newsline, and that's the way it is on Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2017. Take care, and God bless.
News First, Newsline with